Chris is running things this week.
Let's go.
So Chris, run it, baby.
So Second Dinner, who is the developer of Marvel Snap, has found a new investor. Because if you guys remember, BitDance, who owned the publisher of the game, kind of they pulled back and we're not doing all this kinds of stuff. So Griffin Gaming Partners will invest $100 million into Second Dinner.
What?
It's previously that investment group or investment firm, if you want to call it that. They've funded some of the things that they've previously helped fund are companies like Discord, Frost Giant Studios. Just to kind of give you a little bit of the things that they've been like, hey, you know what? We think there's some money to be made here. Let's throw some money at Discord. So Second Dinner said that they will continue to operate independently. And that Griffin Gaming Partners will act as a minority investor alongside NetEase, who had also done an investment in Second Dinner in the early days. I think before they even got the publishing arm done of their game. So Brody, who is the kind of the head of Second Dinner, the guy who used to work on Ben Brody, the guy who used to work on Hearthstone.
He does all the videos, right?
Yeah, and he's in. I guess he still is. I actually haven't watched one of the trailers in a hot minute, but yeah, he used to be on all the trailers, and whenever they would have the little kind of like the directs in a way, he would talk there as well. That they usually sometimes would follow like one of the big announcements of the next season is going to happen. He did say that the majority of the team is currently and intends to continue working on Marvel Snap for years to come. Said, but Second Dinner is also working on a couple of other things, and that the only thing that he said about him, and if you've watched any of the stuff that Ben Brody has been a part of, this makes total sense, but he just says they're all super, super fun. So, I mean, that's just kind of the way that he is and the kind of language that he uses. Yeah, everything is crazy exciting to that man. So that total, it's like when I read that line, I heard it in his voice. So Marvel Snap is not likely to go not that I thought it was going to be going anywhere anytime soon, because I know it's still super popular, but it's definitely not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Yeah.
So does it make a distinction between Marvel Snap getting $100 million in funding or is it BitDance?
It's Second Dinner, the actual developer themselves. Yeah.
Second Dinner getting $100 million for years of development of what they're working on, because that's two different things.
Yeah, all that I see in this article, it doesn't specify that money is to go towards development of Marvel Snap. It's just development money to go to Second Dinner to use how they see
which is really salary money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
salary and licensing money, probably.
Probably, yeah, to help pay for all the various things that they have there.
Yeah, because they don't own Marvel.
Yeah, and they so Marvel Snap had released on Steam, I think it was back in August, and I think that completed it being on all the platforms that they had talked about wanting to make sure that they were fully supported on and cross played on as well. So things are looking up for old Second Dinner and Marvel Snap and whatever the super fun game is that they'll be working on next.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Super duper fun. Yeah. Chris, do you have any want to jump back in?
Do it.
I mean, I think about it every now and then just because it was fun, but I mean, I don't have like any big draw. I know every time that I think about like, oh man, if I see something in a news article or whatever about this new set of cards comes out, and I'd be like, oh man, that does look kind of neat. I might want to check that out. But then I remember all the things I've hit my head against the wall on. It's like from the little bits that I've heard, none of that's any different. So I'm just going to end up in the same spot. So I don't want to waste my time, kind of thing. If I hear
or some of your gripes again.
I don't like my memory. It. And again, maybe this is different now. I haven't done a super deep dive on anything like that, but I don't like there being a new season. The seasons last like a month. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, they were quick.
I don't enjoy. I mean, I enjoy the ladder climb, but I don't like the way that partly because of how quick they are, and how fast the meta changes, but the feeling like I constantly felt like I need to be keeping up. And I know that you can have like your main deck, whatever it is, and there's certain decks that have been viable for a really, really long time. But I always felt I don't know if push is the right term, but I always felt like I needed to be playing what the current meta was, because I felt like that was the most dominant, which required you to invest either money or time, whatever it may be. And then I felt like a lot of the things, the specialty things, just were way too expensive, which is the case with a lot of free-to-play games. And personally, I would just put because I reached whatever, I don't even remember what the top level was. Infinite, I think is what it was called back then.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it still is. Because I reached that a couple of different times, I always felt this self-imposed pressure to get to that again. Otherwise I was failing, if you will. I mean, that's kind of a silly way to phrase it, because it's not like I was, getting vastly, crazy depressed because I wasn't reaching infinite, but I would be annoyed, or like if I was playing a game and then I fell back like 10 spaces or 10 levels, I would get really frustrated and I just didn't like all the situation where it put my headspace. It was too much.
Yeah.
I probably got way more competitive with that game than I probably have with any other
really
competitive game. I feel like, again, a lot of that was self-imposed, probably,
right,
or it was. But I mean, I think that what had a big part to do with it personally, and I really just did not like, even from the very beginning, I do not like the seasons lasting a month. To me, that's way too fast. That's too fast of a treadmill to be running. Yeah, that's too fast of a treadmill to be running all the time. If you're gonna do it like 3 months or something. Ease it up just a little bit. But I mean, then again, that's their business model, and clearly it's being successful for them. So why are they going to stop just because Chris doesn't like it? They're not going to.
Yeah.
So because I haven't heard that any of that's any different, I have no desire to jump back in, because I know I'll just end up in the same spot that I was in before.
It's so funny because a lot of that stuff doesn't bother me. Like, I'm back in it. I'm doing the ladder. I'm trying to get up to 100 again. I'm running the same deck that I used, but when I went on hiatus, and progressing pretty well. I'm almost at level 80 right at this point. But I didn't really buy the season pass. And it was just funny. We were in LA. I'm watching Stancil play it. I'm like, man, I should jump back into it. That was fun. And I did. And I kind of haven't looked back. It's like it's kind of my Clash Royale now. I kind of play it all the time. So funny. It's really weird how that came about.
Ed, with us talking about it, any want to jump back in there?
I don't think so. Even, it's a little good to hear Tim say that he can still rock his old deck that he used to rock. But at the same time, I feel like, man, a lot of new characters I'm sure are there. And I just that idea of being like, wait, what just happened? What does that? It's almost intimidating. Like, almost the thought of like, if I would join Overwatch now, but I hadn't played since the Overwatch 1 first season. All of a sudden you've got all these new characters to learn. It's just a little intimidating.
But for me, like, I feel like Hearthstone had way more cards that overwhelmed me, new cards. So like, I haven't jumped back in for that same reason, Ed. But with Marvel Snap, I feel like, I've noticed some new characters, but I don't
because
feel
you're still running what you were running. You know that.
I know. Right. I know my cards, and it's just when you're up against them, then you just have to kind of remember it. And there's a couple cards that a lot of newer cards that people are rocking, and so now you kind of get that gauge. But it's for me, it's not as overwhelming as, say, a Hearthstone, where new decks and new cards come out everywhere.
I mean, I feel I don't understand that statement at all, because I feel like I got into the game late because, I wasn't part of the beta or whatever it was. And the fact that it's a new set of cards and a new meta and everything is released every month. I mean, Hearthstone seasons was like 3 or 4 months long. Even though they've been around way longer and its total amount of cards is way more. I feel like the amount of cards in the short time that it's been out dwarfs, and the pace at which they come out is way faster.
I think what Tim is saying, though, the ability to leave the game for months and then come back and rock your old cards that you were rocking, and that still be able to pull down some wins. That's what makes it feel not so daunting. Then
it's true.
Oh shoot, I got to go learn these 7 new cards that came out just this month.
Well, but
then the 7 that came out last month, and the ones
But I would still push back on that, and the reason that I say that is because in Hearthstone, you can go back and play Classic, or you can go back and play Wild, where you can play anything from the beginning of the game. And while you can play any cards you want in Marvel Snap, the majority of the excitement about it is all the new, and the new happens so fast that there's that keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up with the meta. And just from a personal standpoint, like, I always kept one deck that was like, oh, this is my go-to that I've had since the beginning, that I can always go back, and it's fun to go back to it and play. But if I was just playing the same deck all the time, that in and of itself, just for me personally, I would get super bored with that very quickly. But the new cards dropping and the new, and I don't know if it's any different now, but there would be a card that was tied to a season, and you could only get that card if it was at the end of the ladder, which you had to pay for, or you could then have the chance to get it like 4 seasons later. It would drop in just to the regular pool where it could be a random drop or whatever, those kinds of things. Like, I just felt like it's smart in the sense that they had a lot of ways to hook. At least the hooks worked on me and seems to work on a lot of people. But I just feel like it feels too greedy to me, because it's like, if you just stretch that out just a little bit, it'll feel like the type of cadence that is okay. Whereas now I'm feeling pressured to be able to do this and to keep up with that. And I don't like that personally. That's
I mean, I don't feel like I've ever been pressured at all. For me, it was.
I don't
just
mean
weird.
Pressure. I don't mean pressure like I can't play the game without it. But I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I get it. I think, it's just one of those things where when I got back into it, I had the same reservations, Chris, very similar to when I got back into Hearthstone. And yes, you're right. You can't go back and play Classic, but I just feel like there's so many new cards. Like, if you look and you try and build your deck in Hearthstone, there's so many that for me, that's way more overwhelming. I think Marvel Snap is
it's also got years and years of a head start on Marvel Snap.
Well, and
Marvel
that's
Snap
very
will be that same thing.
That's exactly
come
right.
3 years from now.
So it's just one of those things. But it's like, I'm just enjoying it. Like, I'm still, and Gabe, to your point, what I said, like the fact that I can pick up with my old deck and still, I climbed pretty quickly because I started back at like level 20, and I'm already at 76 or 77 right now, and it's just it's been fun just to get back into it. So yeah, I mean, I get it. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but it's
funny because all the things that you're saying are daunting about Hearthstone. I found, and your experiences with Marvel Snap, I have the exact same experience, but the flip side with Hearthstone. Anytime I'd go back to it, it doesn't matter that there's been 4 different seasons or whatever of cards. Like, I can use my same decks. The only time that it got a little bit daunting was I introduced new classes, and I was like, okay, I've got to learn this class, but then I just pick one and I stick to that one until I kind of feel like I learn it. And because it has, which there was some type of mechanic in Hearthstone, in Marvel Snap as well, or it got introduced around the time I was leaving, so I don't remember the specifics, but the whole dusting system makes it to where you could still be viable, because you can, as long as you have some dust, you can craft a couple of the cards that are the current meta. Right. Whereas I feel like that was from my memory, that was a much more difficult task to undertake in Marvel Snap, at least back when I was playing. I don't know how it is now.
It's so funny. I'll still play Hearthstone, but I play Battlegrounds instead. Like, I don't play the traditional Hearthstone route.
Yeah, I didn't like Battlegrounds.
I
didn't like Arena either, though. A lot of people really liked it.
I didn't like Arena either. I'm right there with you, but yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.